Greetings, Monstrites. Today we will be doing a Monstrous unboxing of Arena the Contest. And by Monstrous, I mean we'll be just taking a look at all things monster in this box so as not to waste your time with all that other geeky stuff, board game stuff that you may not be interested. Although if you are part of the select few that ever so generously support me on Patreon, you will get the full uncut unboxing experience as I am here with you. And basically, for those of you that do not know what this game is, if you are looking for something that's as close as possible to D&D that's not D&D, or a board game that's most like D&D, this would be the game to probably go to from what I've heard and learned. What we're seeing first here is the Madness box, which is when you supported this game on Kickstarter, then you get all these extra little perks and stuff. Madness box. This will be a fun one, as this will be mostly packed with miniatures. Let's see if there's anything on the back. Oh yes, there is. There's some monstrous stuff for you. Arena the Contest. Basically, how you can play this game is against each other, together in co-op, single mode, playable characters. That guy looks like the life of a party right there. So this is what I got right here, and this is Tenera's Adventures. That box is right there behind me. They also just made an RPG, so a fully RPG game. If I really get into this game, I'm gonna get that map and hang it on the wall. Quest guide. There's some monstrous stuff. That's a nice bone dragon. Art in the back here. I like the art style they did for this game. It looks like they used a lot of referencing of actual models and actors and stuff and people, real people, to incorporate into their digital paintings. And they did a good job with it, I gotta admit. Better use references, always. Like this one, very well known right there. So they all look very much like that. So you can clearly tell her face, and you'll see it later. This is Campaign Tomes. This is the lore. Ooh, I love that. Look at that. And I did mention this is gonna be one of the closest board games to D&D out there, and seeing a picture like that just further proves that. This is so beautiful, it's monstrous enough to have to showcase this map right here. Alright, next we got the actual rulebook. There's Werewolf on there, and a vampire, so there you folks have it, and a bat, couple bats, a few bats. Nice, we got an index. Layout of the board game. We have our board right there, and our tokens and such right there. All right, what's under here? The tasty stuff. Okay, I gotta say that dragon looks already better than I was expecting, and with this relaunch or updated Kickstarter, they did improve all the miniatures, so that's exciting to see. You can actually go on the internet and see comparisons between the old miniatures and the new ones, and we'll get to that. Big boy last, or girl, or both, or neither. Playable characters, so you have Qatar the Barbarian, is a brute, and then we got another brute, Cedric the Werewolf. That's some nice werewolf art right there. And then you get the full art in the back. That's pretty hot. I do like that. Well done. Okay, we got a human here, a samurai here. We got an Amazon here, Rurik the tank warrior here, cleric healer. This is druid healer, the hunter shooter, wizard shooter, witch controller. Fallen Angel. Okay, she's pretty monstrous. That's a cool character to play. Zamor, the red dragon boss. Ah, there we go. Another boss, which is the blue dragon. Next, the black dragon. White dragon. Undead dragon. Balaroth the Diablo. We got a demon here. A gold dragon. Again, you can see the D&D influence here. Dragon Avatar. Boss. Cursed, Blessed, Quick Sheets. Cool. We got leveling up cards. Cool. Evil Power. Artifact cards. Health. Black Dragon there. Mighty Bow. Cool. Got a little treasure chest here. Now let's take a closer look at the miniatures, shall we? We're actually going to be starting with the heroes, as they are actually monstrous enough. Here we have Zafara, the Fallen Angel. So she is a playable character, and what you can see is there's going to be different colored plastics. See how nice and thin the material is and all these details. When they tend to use different colored plastics for miniatures, you will see the recesses not as deep a little bit of the detail muddied. Although it's not too bad with these, you can even feel by the weight that they're a little bit of a cheaper plastic. I do have to admit that Fallen Angel is definitely one of the coolest overall miniatures in the core box. This is Katharina the Witch. She is a controller as well. There's 2 of each class of hero, so they are controller classes, hence their color. You can see that the bases are also nicely textured and sculpted. Nice little details. You can even see the little holes in that staff. As long as you got details like that present in a miniature, I have no complaints. If there's going to be some muddying in the hair or something like that, that's fair. But if they are able to actually pull little holes out in the tooling as these are produced and such, that's pretty impressive. You can even see the thing she's holding, which is a sort of energy ball. Oh, I think those are the fumes and the flames and such. They're just so little that you can pull out these little shapes out of the mold without issue. From the class of healers, this is Taram the Cleric, and looks like he is your basic human. Again, nice details. Obviously different parts of plastics put together. It's not a single piece, hence you have nice dimensional poses and the fabrics doing their thing too. Well done on that. This color of plastic, this one hits. I like it. It has the appearance of plastics that would glow in the dark. And next in the healer class, possibly my favorite class, well, just looking at the miniature, because I love summoning. Classes that can summon, that can create monsters, that can create their own pets and creatures and followers and minions. This is Thalia the Druid, again, healer class, and this is one of the coolest such miniatures I've ever seen. So over here you got the eagle or falcon or some sort of raptor on her arm perched, and you can see the separation between the legs. Again, nice details. You can even see her thumbs. There is nothing wrong with these miniatures. There's nothing bad about them. Then you have this large serpent. Could we call it a snake? Well, it could be a worm, so not sure there, but it's some sort of serpentine creature monster, and that is just awesome to see 2 creatures like that on the base and so nicely posed. Well done on that, Arena. And the next playable race, probably a lot of your favorite, is going to be a werewolf. That's right, they actually have a playable werewolf character. This is called Cedric, and this is the class of Brute. This werewolf impressed me. So I did a hunt for the best werewolf miniature a while back. I painted that werewolf miniature up and all that, and that was a 3D printed one. And I would say the pose might be even better than that 3D one I printed out, and the design of the werewolf is actually very similar. I'm almost wanting to say that this is a better werewolf mini than that one. And I looked through many. There's cool poses and statuesque poses, but when you're looking for a good action sort of pose, I gotta say, these guys did an awesome job, and you can definitely see the fur sticking out, so you can nicely paint that, the fingers separated. It's a very good werewolf sculpt. The only thing that I would say with the 3D print is better is the bottom area with the feet here, because this is a mass production piece. You just can't get that quality with the feet down there, but that can be touched up. Whereas the 3D print is better, but you should be expecting a lot from a 3D print. Next, for our Brute class is Qatar the Barbarian. So Qatar the Barbarian is a orc or half orc, not sure. The concept art behind this guy, it's got human skin tones, more tannish, as you would see with barbarians in fantasy art, but he has small tusks, so I would assume that's more of a half orc than a full out orc, or just some different race. Anyway, awesome versatile pose. Look at that axe. Next up, we have blue for the shooter classes, and we will start with this, Avalum the Wizard. Again, nice work here. There's a lot of sculpt that goes underneath. There isn't a lot of filling in material that's unsculpted. These are really well filled in and just versatile shaped minis. Well done. I'd say one of the coolest things about this one is definitely his staff. The ram skull and horns. Very cool action, active pose for a wizard. And next up, we have a shooter that is Niari the Hunter, and here you have her awesome bow. She's wearing those high heel boots. You can see again those nice little details like that. I think that's a wand, possibly a wand. Let me see the other side. 2 wands, or are they some kind of daggers? See how nice and thin they are, and even that one isn't touching her body. Ringmail armor on her legs. You can see it's textured, so not much is lost lost in details. Some things like these, you're gonna see like a mold line following this up, so you can just clean up the edges. But really, it's not that bad at all. Once you paint this up, it's gonna look awesome, especially if you do it with quality and skill. Next is going to be Rokaru. Rokaru is the samurai, and this orange color is for the two tactician classes. Again, you can see all those little etchings and details in the armor standing out. It's all nicely textured, even on the helm there. Everything's good, ready to be dry brushed and inked and washed and everything. Little sandal details, that one's a little bit messy, but this one looked good. I really like the pose of this guy because he's not that interesting to me. He's one of the more, I don't want to say generic, but your basic sort of guy with a sword. In the other hand, he does have a gem, and that's because this is Garyon the Rogue, another tactician class member. I love the pose of this guy, and that's something really fun and maybe important to some people. When you're choosing your hero, you can take this against a monster in your hand and battle it out just like a 5-year-old kid. It just has that sort of pose that's very dynamic on the table and fun to mess around with, and you always see where his area of attention is focused and how his reach is and all that. This cape going around, or his coat, it's completely thin, which I like. I don't want this to be thicker. That doesn't mean quality to me. Quality to me means getting as realistic and as small a scale as possible. And the last class is going to be the gray colored class here, and that is for the tanks. This is an Amazon, and I didn't even notice during the opening and unboxing, she's missing her hand here and her long spear. She has a really cool, elaborate spear, and it's gone, and I couldn't find it in the box. Dragora Games. Hopefully they get back to me and somehow send me that piece or the whole miniature. I don't know, because I want the whole thing. She's missing her weapon, and it's a big one. That's a big part of her miniature. Anyway, this sticks out. The little emblem on the back, or a big emblem there on the back of her cape, sticks out a bunch, so easy to apply paint on. And then her whole pose as she goes through the air, and the cape basing supporting the miniature. Awesome work. And that was Jorana the Amazon. And last for the heroes, we have the tank Rurik the Warrior. Take a look at that. Shield in the front, nice, huge, very fantastical battle axe with nice little intricate details on the top with that raptor there, and then another axe on the back and a short sword, and just an offensive and defensive shield, which is just wonderful to see. And nice little spikes on the boots. You can definitely still see the lines in the beard there, and those are some more fine of a beard and hair structure compared to some of the hairs of the other miniatures. But again, the quality of these miniatures, I would say, compared to like a cheap miniature line that just makes miniatures like Reaper Bones, this is better. All around a good balanced plastic that they used to create these details. Alrighty, now we're moving to the actual minions, the monsters of the game, and there aren't that many in the core box. Luckily, I do have Teneris Adventures as well, which is a large expansion with a ton of minis. Oh boy, and the monster box that you're gonna see next. That monster box has some amazing stuff. So there are like 4 different generic villain miniatures, and you use them for orcs or different things that you encounter in the game. I've only played one scenario so far, but it looks like a lot of different monster types are going to be represented by these. Probably only just humanoid in form. This is what's called the Sentinel. It's your basic melee class monster. This is a soldier, which has a little bit of a ranged attack, or more ranged attack. It's like a spear distance, obviously expressed by the long warhammer that he's carrying. And something that's not often showcased is the hero miniatures. A lot of them are more interesting than these villain miniatures. But again, we haven't opened the other boxes yet, such as Teneris, the expansion, and the Monster Madness box, which is nuts. And then for the ranged shooters, we have the sniper class villains, the masked sort of executioner, which I found kind of interesting since they are shooters and they really depend on their eyesight and vision, yet they're wearing a mask. But he has kind of that sniper roguish look, you know. Back here for darts, 2 sets of them. And then for your generic humanoid boss, you have the warlord here. Decent looking mini, but nothing special. I think each one of those heroes ones had something that that you could say was really well done. Either the pose or certain details. These guys are pretty basic. What were they thinking treating my monsters like that? And then as for the big boy here, we're gonna have this green dragon. Although there are various different dragons that you will face in this game, and they do have an expansion or an additional box that you can buy for those other dragons, or you can just use this one as your generic dragon for all the different colored and types of dragons. It's quite a bulky, a beefy little miniature and dragon. What I do like, for example, the tongue inside his mouth, that's a whole separate piece of plastic. Looking at the tail here where the scale size changes, it gets pretty small here. Feels very realistic at this point, and the unevenness of the skin is very reminiscent of actual reptile skin. The rest of it is all pretty good. I mean, it is what it is. It's nothing amazing for a dragon. They beefed it up. Instead of doing a thin dragon with huge wings that would take up this amount of space, they beefed it up to make this Tarrasque sort of thickened monster, and all in all, he looks good. I would have liked to maybe have seen some more details on the wings here, veinage, something like that. It's a nice basic dragon. I'd say it's nothing that amazing as far as dragon miniatures go, but in comparison to the other core box villains that we've seen, this is certainly the top out of them. All in all, as far as the miniatures in the core box go, I've got to hand it to the different heroes. The druid with the pets, the werewolf, of course, the fallen angel, the samurai. They had a lot of cool details and great poses. So that is Arena the Contest core box. Now we're going to take a look at the Madness box. All those stretch goals that we got for backing this project on Kickstarter. Again, Dungeons and Dragons, anyone? Sides of the boxes. We see different environments. Dragori Games, well done. Not much more than that. That's it, guys. Let's take a closer look at these wonderful beasties, shall we? I'm gonna save the best one for last, as it's more than just the best one here. It's one of the better miniatures I've seen. So anyway, this is the Titan. Right away, there's one issue or something that I noticed with a lot of miniatures or monsters or beasties that they scale after the fact. Then they realize we have a lot more space in the box, so we can make this monster bigger. So it looks like that's what they did here. They made him bigger, so certain details are plumped up, but then things like these skulls. This is what always is kind of a pet peeve for me, because he's supposed to look like a Titan, which means that to show the scale, other than seeing the scale, you would have human skulls. Now, if these were human skulls, they would be much smaller. Let's compare. Here is the rogue, for instance, so you can see how small his head is. Now, granted, you can make the skull a little bit bigger than his head, as it's very tiny, but I would prefer to make it actually as correct to scale, because then you would really see the size of this guy. But no, these skulls are pretty much as big as his skull. So it just looks like he's a Titan killer, like he just killed a bunch of other Titans, and like he's the leader of the Titans, which is very possible that that is the thing in the story. I do not know the lore and story behind him yet, so maybe that is the whole thing. But beside this guy here, that's often what I do see, is they will scale up certain miniatures after the fact. Oh, it's also in another miniature that's going to be coming up here. You'll see what I mean with that. Other than that, nice sculpt. You can see the muscles, back muscles, pretty decently anatomically done, a little bit cartoony in a way, but great for paint up, or should I say stylized. Look at the size of that dragon head. Now, comparing to the core box dragon, I'd say that's fair size. All the details around here are nice. It's not until you put a miniature, because this sort of miniature, it's a Titan, so you just look at it quick and done. But it's not until you make a video like this that you really start looking at the detail of these plates between his neck, where things touch, the plastic touches and doesn't, the beard going down, all these little details. There's great texturing on the dragon head here and the ground. I would say that this guy is well scaled up if these are actual giants heads or Titan heads. If you see, that sword is pretty big in the dragon's head there, so scaling issue? Maybe. Next up from the Madness box is the smallest miniature. This guy may be small, but if you know undead monster powers, you may realize that this is among the most powerful of monsters and such. And this is a lich. Now, look at those skulls. I just noticed that now after ranting about it. See how small? Those are human-sized skulls. I want to see skulls like that on that giant's base or the Titans. Looking at the form and all that, it's rather well done, just like those hero miniatures. Looking forward to zooming this up and maybe getting a better look at his face there in the video. The staff looks pretty awesome too. I like the details on that staff. This is a chimera. Interesting chimera, right? You got the goat head here, and then you got the lion in the middle, and then a dragon on the left. But then look at those claws, or paws. Those are very bear-like. So you have a bear mixed in there somewhere as well. Then you got the wings sort of creating a nice portrait here. So design-wise, I do like the idea of that. And then on the back, it goes very reptilian, carrying on that dragon type of anatomy. But then you got the back body of the goat more, or the hairiness, the furriness of the bear, and then the hooves of that goat. And then the tail goes around, that bony tail, and then you got nice little crisp scales underneath. Goes around to this snake serpent tip or ending. There you go. That's the pointy side. Actually, all sides of this creature are pointy and deadly and such. So initially, I don't like these wings too much. I do love the texturing and the design and the sculpting of the wings. The whole sculpt is awesome. I have to admit that. Maybe that lion could be a little bit more monstrous. Like if you look at that goat head looks pretty monstrous. Like it may look like a normal goat, but at least it looks like a pissed off goat. The lion there looks a little bit too tame of a lion. I would have liked to have seen that a little more monstrous, especially in comparison with that goat there. The dragon head looks great. Again, the tongue is a separate plastic piece. Well done. What I was saying, that these wings hide a lot of the detail. You want to see a lot of the body here, but that's hidden. But what they do is they create, again, that nice portrait. So it's a nice display piece, but you do have those aspects that are hidden behind them. And ultimately, it's made and designed so that it works well in the game, being on the board and not taking too much space. Next up, I'm going to do the Undead Knight. Now the skulls are bigger than on the liches, but smaller than on the giants. So again, consistency should be thought about ahead when creating these sculpts and not once you hit production and seeing how big your box is and all that. Great texturing on the cape there. Sword, big beefy, typical evil, scary big sword. Kind of a Sauron helm on him. I love the angle of this spike here and going up. Pretty damn awesome. And the horse, well, it's not exactly a horse. Very awesome. Armored up. Looks like it's squinting. No, it looks like the eye is just small in there. So that's pretty awesome. Grotesque fangs and such all over the place. Big fluffy tail, horns. Are they the horns of the helm or the horse itself? It looks more like the horse. The horse does even have ears in there. So it's little details like that in the sculpt. Well done, first of all, to the concept artists. You always have to thank the concept artists first, because they're the ones that created all this, and then the sculptor that worked with them. And if it's one person, then double huzzah to you. And here es un diablo. This is the demon, or basically the devil here. I don't know the rest of the underworld realm, but we'll just call it a demon or demon lord. Bugging me already is the bent sword right there, but you can just heat it up with an iron hair dryer, hot water, and you can straighten that sword out. Maybe a little bit of a pain since it's in there next to other plastic. Again, consistency of the skeleton on the bottom. Are those dead giants or humans? Moving up. Stuff I didn't notice when I was looking at these by myself ahead doing a quick review. These little details of like these horns and such standing out. Even those little fangs in his mouth, the horns going forward, and just how sharp they get. When a pointy bit on a miniature is actually sharp, those are points that I give for the creation of that miniature. Nice texturing there and such, as that's what you want, right? In real life, if it's a horn, it's going to be sharp to your finger. If it's going to be a mini, then it really should be sharp. It better be like a needle, right? And that's basically what these are. You got horns going back here. You got horns making these angles. See, they're doing things with these minis that you're going to avoid dealing with when making figures and molds and things like that. But no, they're going all the way and making these intricate angles of the horns. Just lovely work. Let's take a look at that sword hilt. Pretty big. basic. It could have been more interesting if they realized from the start that how big this guy was going to be. Then they would realize, oh, we can add so much more detail. But no, this guy was probably planned on being this tall. Then they realized, oh, we got so much more space in the box. Let's pump him up to this size. Everything else got pumped up, but then this cool other details that could have been were missed. Nice. Chained up forearms, great for fighting giant zombies. Anyway, I gotta move on. And here we have the Arachne. I love this. Look at that. A moment of honorable silence. The beefiness of the back part here, the abdomen, huge, a lot of plastic, heavy. I don't care when miniatures are big, like big monsters. I care more the pose and the details and the concept of what's going on. But having her, for what she is, scaled up at this size, I love it. This is your sniper right here. It's awesome, especially with the camera angle from where it is. It looks so epic. I absolutely adore this miniature. It's already a great concept to see this in miniature form, but in a gigantic miniature form. Let's explore real quick what we got going on here. I don't want to ruin this, but if you look at the spiders, they are the same sculpts. They are the same copied sculpts, and they're even made smaller on the staff. Beside that, you had to get that out of the way, but focusing on that, look at that staff. It's covered with spiders. Awesome. Now here is the scaling issue. See how big the skulls are, and then see how big that body is. That's a human body, right? But then you look at the human size miniatures, afterthoughts, or not the best of planning. She was supposed to be smaller, essentially. If she got beefed up to this size, they should have shrunken this guy down. And if they still want a cool presence on the base, then they could have doubled and have had two rolled up. I hope that makes sense. I think I've beat that to death now, that point. But I haven't seen too many people make it out there when reviewing minis. I do like the texturing of this sack of like eggs or something on the bottom. Very nasty looking, veiny looking. The arms, the legs look almost biomechanical. Interesting design there. What's going on here with her portrait? The top is all amazing. All the legs are awesome, but then what about these tiny little legs? Look at that. This little symbolic thing here. Her hair going in here and then going between the legs, the small legs that are on the back, and then her hair intertwining with its other hair and such, and the legs here, again, separate plastic points. Really amazing work on that. Awesome pose. Fun to put miniatures under. You saw how that one stood next to her. I don't know if this is my favorite. I think the next one, it was better than what I expected. And finally, we have the Augur. Now, this is the guy that's on the box. This is the main promotion piece, and I love it. I'm still a little speechless when I look at it. It's just, I'm not speechless as in it's in so much awe. It's just when I start looking at all the details, just get focused in on that and zoomed in. I thought it was going to be your basic beholder. I mean, I saw this concept. I've seen this miniature, pictures of it on the Kickstarter, but it's not until I got it in hand. I gotta say, this is one of my favorite miniatures. And I don't say that often because one miniature that stands out to me as my top is from Kingdom Death Monster, and it is the I think it's the Watcher, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't played in a while, but it's a cloaked figure with a bunch of lanterns hanging off. And it's so intricate and detailed. I regard it as my favorite mini. This is contending with it. When I first picked it up, I rarely spend that much time on a miniature anymore where I keep looking at and finding new little details and things that just impress me. Like all these angles, every one of these tendrils has, or tentacles of sorts, has spines, 2 rows of spines on the top, and then at the tips they rise up, and then these kind of they're not really suckers, they're more like nipply bits, like thorny nipply bits, there you go, underneath. So you have 2 rows of those, and then you got all this going on. I understand this tendril is a separate piece of plastic, but these horns produced in the shape that they were and that detail is just awesome. They're separated from the rest of the body of the plastic, all that, and then going into the mouth, just fun. Any creature with a big face or eye that encompasses a large part of its anatomy is always fun and a great monster monster, and especially when you have a miniature of it. This guy having the mouth and another inner mouth inside that mouth and crazy fangs. There's just so much you don't see when you see this online posted that you do when you start painting or really looking closer at it once you get it. The nice forked tongue, the horns going off the sides. I mean, they made this like their staple representation of this pack and stretch goals and such, and it definitely deserves all that attention. Every angle of it. It's just standing on these two tendrils, and on the bottom of it, you have a little pool there with skulls, bubbles, and then a hand in that water of someone that's drowning underneath this beautiful monstrosity. This is so much more interesting than a lot of the dragon miniatures you would get out there and other titans and such. I can't stop looking at it, looking at all the different textures here, the lines. There's even a little horn back here. There's some like tendrils that are still developing. They're kind of underdeveloped. Anyway, I can keep going on. For as simple of a monster as it looks, I surprise myself by how much I fell in love with it. Guys, at Arena, Dragora Games, you chose an awesome one, because this one and this bad girl right here, what an incredible combo. These monsters are absolutely awesome, and comparing with your intimidating samurai right here, that's just how big they are. Next is Teneris Adventures. I'm gonna have to unbox. That has more amazing monsters, not as the huge monstrosities, but more of the smaller, awesome, and better miniatures, because that's a newer, updated game and expansion and all that good stuff. See you there.